Right, good evening, guys. Kind of a little accident with the camera then. Seems to have fallen off its stand. Okay, so right, tonight I'm going to be doing a fairly short stream. So the guy on the screen at the moment is something I've been working on today, so I want to show him off before we start. He is one of the Knights of the Shield for the Descent into Avernus campaign. So I've styled him on a kind of a Saracen type troop. So they've got that kind of a Middle Eastern warrior look. So this is the first one. Should be a group of 5 of these guys for this month's release. So some reposes, some alternative details, different heads, different headgear, maybe a couple of weapon options, we'll see. Well, it'll all be swords, but maybe a couple of different types of swords. So yeah, so these guys are going to be joining the Cambion from last month as the Knights of the Shield. The stream we're actually going to be doing tonight, I'm just going to load this, save this guy down, and I'm going to reload a new one. So we're going to be doing Luxifer from the Crystal Collapse game. So we'll just get the image on the screen for you so you can see who we're working on. King Flubber Tubber, Tubber Flubber, thank you for the follow. Okay, so where am I looking? Find the Crystal Collapse folder. We'll get Luxifer on screen. Oh, there you go. So let's just show him now. Right, there he is. So this is the chap we're working on today. We'll just find him on my recent files. Good evening, King Tubberflower. I'm doing very well, thank you. Just had a busy day of sculpting. Just got the kids to bed, or one of them at least. And the wife's just dealing with everyone now. So just having a little bit of an evening sculpt. So, how are you doing tonight? You up to, is it night for you? Is it morning for you? Evening? Afternoon? Oh, it's evening. You've already said so. You up to anything nice, or are you just chilling and tuning in? Let's see what I'm up to. Okay, so this is where we got to within on a previous. Oh, you UK then? Same time as me then. So here we go. So this is the guy we're doing tonight. This so far we've got on him so far. So he was sculpted on the last couple of streams under the Crystal Collapse header. So if you want to see him getting to this point already, there's a couple of prior streams on my channel. Ah, brilliant! Yes, yeah, good old Mike. I will thank him as well. I love a little bit of Mike moans. Okay, so yeah, so he's a little bit more cartoony, a bit more bright than I would usually do. Colour-wise, I'm going to turn him right down so he matches the artwork eventually. This just helps to kind of get him kind of right. Something not quite right with his face. I'm not 100% sure what yet. Obviously we're doing an anime character, so he's got anime stylings about him, and it makes it quite difficult to try and figure it out. I think it might just be his bottom jaws protruding a bit much, so I'm just going to try and just nudge it back in just to see if it can help me out a little bit, just getting it looking right. Could also just be that his face is a bit wide, and the way his hair is here, it's looks like it's pulling in too much. I also have to pull his forehead up, and a little bit of that going on. maybe just have to adjust his crown and let's just bring his crown forward a touch like that, and then we'll do his hair too. So this guy is the kind of the big bad evil guy. No worries, mate. You lurk and get your dinner. Thank you for the sub as well. And hopefully we'll tune in for some more. If you're about on Friday daytime, I'm going to be doing another stream Friday because it's my birthday tomorrow. So I'm going to be running a birthday stream. That'll be Friday because obviously tomorrow I've got plans with the family. So Friday we'll do a little bit of a little bit more of just general sculpting stuff, I think. Possibly a few giveaways and some codes, some discount codes. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your dinner. And yeah, I'll just carry on talking about the sculpts as I go. So if you want to listen out, then you're more than welcome. Right then, so yeah, sculpting anime characters is always a little bit difficult because you've got to try and get this. They've got these very kind of like animated, like fine features. We've got like the strands of hair you can see on the illustration they're quite wispy. They're quite what do you call it, multi-directional. When we start doing that in a miniature, it makes it quite difficult to try and make it printable and paintable at the same time as also having that same aesthetic. And one of the other things we've got to kind of keep an eye on here as well. I don't know yet whether this is going to be sold as a 3D printed product or if it's going to be as a plastic figure or a resin figure or a metal. Well, it won't be metal, but whether it's going to be plastic or resin or 3D printed. So if it ends up being cast, there's going to be a lot of limitations that we've got to kind of like adhere to, and the hair is going to suffer for that. So we're not going to be able to get it 100% accurate, but we're going to try and get it as close as possible. So I'm still not 100% convinced, but I'm not going to finish it yet. We'll get the cloak on, we'll get the pose done first, then I'll sort the hair out, because again, any directional stuff we do. Pixie, how are you doing? Nice to have you on the stream. Hope you're having a lovely evening. So yeah, right, so the next thing I need to get on this guy is the boots. So I'm just going to mask his feet off. I'm just going to isolate just his legs, and you can see these boots come up to about his knees, and then we've got like this big kind of what do you call it, crenellations, castellations, the battlements kind of thing around his upper leg armour. So we're just going to isolate this off, mask it. I'm going to extract, and I think it was about 0.0458 or 0.00458 on the thickness. Extract that and accept. Excuse me. Right, so this is going to give us the foundation for the boots. So I'm just going to isolate and delete the internal geometry. Close the holes off. Keep it solid. Right, and on these boots we've got some big old pointy toes. So I'm just going to bend his ankles round a little bit, because when I separated his legs and moved them out, what I didn't do was straighten his feet. So at the moment his feet aren't flat on the floor. So I just want to correct that now. Okay, right, there we go. Right, so we're going to take the move tool. I'm just going to drag the toes right out into big old points, and then we're going to bring the points up into a... How can I rotate the feet? Okay, so basically all I'm doing is in Zbrush you have like a masking feature. So hold the control key and the brush cursor turns into a masking brush. So I've got this on mask lasso, so I can draw like whatever shape I want here now, and it'll just mask it off like that. So once it's masked, that's not helpful what I've just done in terms of illustrating this. If I mask it off just at where the ankle joint is, so the ankle downwards is isolated with a mask, I can double tap on the thing with the masking tool again a couple of times, and it'll just soften that mask, which means it'll be less of a kind of a harsh transition. And then we put the moving widget on, the gizmo, and what I'm going to do is on this view, the side view, position it dead center on the ankle, and on the front I want it again on the ankle. And when I isolate the mask now, I can move the feet, and they move from where the center of this gizmo is. So this is how I kind of pose models. And then once you've done, you'll have a little bit of, you see we've got like a little dodgy kind of kink in the ankle. So you just run a bit of smoothing over the ankle, and that just helps to just make it look proper, if you like. You have to be careful when you do that with like armoured areas and things like that. They're a bit more rigid because sometimes the panels and the plates will twist, and you don't really want any twisting and distortion on them. So what you can do with that is you can isolate the armoured sections from the softer parts that you're moving, and then just manually move them around afterwards. And it's a little bit easier doing that. Or you can just isolate any additional parts that are like layers, isolate them completely from the mesh to start with when you do your masking, and then when you bring them back in, they'll either be masked or not. So if it's like a piece of armour that's on the toe, once I've done all the masking up here, we'll leave that piece unmasked, and then when I deform it, the deformations happen up here, and the piece on the toe there will just move along with it. So I'll show you more of that when we come to posing this guy anyway. But okay, so if you see this guy's leg armour on the illustrations, we've got a few layers to get in. So I'm going to just do a diagonal here. I'm going to sharpen that up. It's going to come to my masking pen. So I want to do a couple of different layers. So in fact, we'll start with the lowest one. So let's just mask off again a larger area. And I also want to come up at a 45-degree angle-ish, up to about there, I think, looking at the image. We'll take it across the back. It's going to block all of this line, or block it out rather. Okay, and now I'm just going to double tap a couple of times on there with the Alt key pressed. That's going to sharpen the mask for me, and then I'm just going to inflate the mesh there. And what that's going to do, that's going to add thickness all the way around fairly evenly. If I go too far with it, it's going to kind of balloon up at the edges. But if you've seen previous streams I do anyway, what I will always do is go back in and polish all the edges, so it doesn't really matter that it gets a little bit softened and whatever else. I'm going to go back in and refine and reshape. Okay, so once we've got that first one on, I'm going to do the same again, and this time I'm just going to do it a little bit further down. So mask off to a point, so I've got a straight level line to work with. Take it down to the point there, at the same point as where the other one is. Just going to mask this off, block it all in, clean up my mask a little bit. Make sure that shape is even all the way around. There we go. So I'm just going to turn that, invert that. I'm just going to inflate again. Okay. And now that I've got the 2 layer, oh no, the second layer is not big enough. Let me just undo that and do that again. Oh, that's okay. So now that I've got that, I'm going to Dynamesh with about 700 resolution, polish turned on, and run it. Now that's just smoothed out the really jagged bits, but it's still not even, it's still not smooth. So I'm just going to come back in with a smallish H polish tool. So H polish, if you're not familiar with it, H polish is hard polish. So it's a tool we use for hard surface models where we want to kind of get a nice sharp, smooth, crisp edge. And H polish I like because what it does is it preserves all the sharp edges. So I can polish up to it and it'll still leave me with this nice sharp straight cut. So I'm just applying a light kind of bit of pressure to gradually take it down to level I want. If I take it too far, I can hold the Alt key and just bring it back again, and that helps me to maintain the level. So sometimes when you're going around, you look at it, it's like it's a bit, like here for example, here I might want to take this, bring this line up this way rather than cutting it in that way. So holding the Alt key across this bit will allow me to raise that up. So I'm just going to go around, just do the same thing again, just buff and polish all the way around the outside. Okay, I'm just going to do the same on the second layer. And what I need to remind myself of then is how did I do the armour trim on all the other bits of this guy, because it's been about a week since I worked on him and I've forgotten what I actually did. And again, if you've seen my streams before, you'll know that I don't have just one way of doing things, which is okay sometimes. It's good to be flexible and adaptable, but it's also a nuisance when you're trying to remember something you've been working on, trying to keep consistency through the model. As they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but you kind of do need to remember which method you applied the last time you did it. Jefferson! Mr. Thacker, good to have you on board, mate. How's things? I haven't heard from you for a while, actually. Hope you're keeping well. So this guy, mate, just in case you've not seen him, he's not one of the D&D minis I normally do. This is for a game I'm working on with a chap called Max. The game's called Crystal Collapse. So Crystal Collapse, oh, good to hear, mate. Glad you're doing well. Yeah, Crystal Collapse, mate. Basically, the game we're working on here, it's a tabletop board game, very similar in playstyle to things like Final Fantasy Tactics, Ogre Tactics, Diofield Chronicle, you know, all these other strategy JRPG type games. So we've gone for, as you can see in the artwork, we've got the aesthetic for the JRPG, like the modern style. So we've got a really talented artist working on the game for us called Alex, who's just knocking these characters out of the park, left, right, and centre. So Max has worked with Alex a few times in the past, yeah, aesthetically we've got this game looking sharp now. So the plan is we're going to go Kickstarter with it kind of Easter next year, hopefully, if all goes to plan. So it's a board game that uses a combination of dice and playing cards. So as an example, like say when you're playing a game, it's nice and quick, it's easy to kind of, you know, get into, very quick to learn, very difficult to master. So it's the kind of game where you can kind of, like, you know, the brief was when I discussed it with Max, we wanted something that I can teach my 7-year-old son to play in one session, and that he can then go and teach his friends how to play it. So it's got to be that kind of simple. But then we've got layers and layers and layers of strategy that kind of layer up on top of that. So between using items, building your team, picking your team members, customising your characters with like new additional skills, there's all this extra stuff that could stack up to kind of like alter your play style, which will mean that hopefully what we'd like to be able to do with it is to be able to kind of create a game that's got enough interest and customization to be able to kind of hit a tournament scene. So not just for friendly PvP play, PvE play, but also having the PvP like tournament type thing going on. So that's where we're pitching. That's what we want to kind of get to. As it stands, I think we're there rule-wise. The rules are playing beautifully. So we're going to be opening it up to playtesters on Tabletop Simulator soon. So if you're interested in Tabletop Simulator and you want to get on board with the playtesting, just hit me up on the Discord channel. I'll add you into the playtesters group, and then we can start getting invites out when we're ready to get third parties in. So this guy is basically, he's the leader of the Imperial faction. So he's not a very nice bloke. Kind of rules with an iron fist. He's a bit of a psychotic overlord type character as well. So he discovers these massive crystals. Crystals basically are like eggs for gods. One of them explodes and lets this god out, and he goes mad off the back of the exposure and explosion, whatever else. And then essentially he then goes off, tries to get his dad, who's the king, to go and invade all his neighbours, to go and reclaim parts of the crystal for, they've got these like magical powers imbued with them. He wants to go and reclaim these crystals, or the crystal shards. Basically his dad says no, he's not interested in upsetting his neighbours, so he ends up killing his father, taking over the throne, becoming the king, and then basically extending his kingdom into an empire, and goes off on a big border expansion quest to go and reclaim all these crystals from the neighbours. And then obviously we've got the neighbours who are rebelling against him, the House Basalia, who are like the other faction we're going to be including in the base game. So I think we've got about 4 factions off the bat that we're looking to be putting out, plus mercenaries who you can include in there. And you'll be able to customise and build your own team based on what you've whichever models you like. You'll choose a leader and one other character that have to be from a particular faction, and then you'll have other characters that you can use. But there's it's quite a story-driven game, so there's like backstory for a lot of the characters where they are 100% against this faction or that faction, or they won't work with this particular person, and if you'll have limitations on your team build up based on that kind of thing. But it's playing really nicely. In terms of whether it's traditional or 3D printed, we're still chewing it over at the moment. So we did and ah about doing it as like a print and play offering. The concern with doing print and play is that we may make a fortune at a Kickstarter. So if we go out, we sell 5,000 pledges of it on a Kickstarter. Because of the way people are these days, with like huge backlogs of models in there, kind of like printing queue and STL files pouring out their ears, I'm wary that we want people to actually play this game so we can get it pushed to that like tournament level. We want to be able to run tournaments at like Gen Con and Essen and UK Games Expo and the other big shows. We want to be able to run tournaments there. We're not going to be able to do that if nobody plays the game. So if there's a barrier like printing the product yourself, is going to stop people from being able to pick it up and play it, we want to kind of avoid that. So we're thinking we're going to go for a physical boxed product with actual physical miniatures that you can basically just pick up and get playing with. So we're still on the fence about whether or not we also release things as STL files. That may come further down the line. We might go down that route. We're not 100% sure yet. So we'll be putting out some polls and asking some questions when we get closer to the date. But what we're looking to pitch in Easter 2023, that will be the Kickstarter for a boxed game which it'll basically be cardboard with meeples and stuff like that, with the option to then add a box of miniatures onto that will represent all your player characters. But yeah, it's quite a simple thing to pick up. It's, you know, deck of cards each, handful of D20s, some D10s. We have been using a D4 for movement, but I think the last time I saw Max, and he was showing me some of the gameplay ideas he got, I'm sure I saw him rolling a D6 for movement. So whether he's changed his mind about the movement dice or not, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's all looking really good anyway. It's you know, Max is still on burnout at the moment from doing Essen and all of the nanolith stuff he's been working on. But we're planning to do a live stream playing the game on a stream live at some point. Hey, no worries, mate. You get off and hit the road. You drive safe though. So tune in later if you want to see the results. I might post them up on the Facebook page and on the Patreon and stuff as well. So, but you take it easy. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, so let's get stuck in with this guy then. Right, so we've got his bits of leg armour here. Then we're going to do this top crenellation. I think I'm going to do as a mask. I'm going to mask it off and I'm going to extract it out. So we'll try and keep the same angle. A little bit lower. Just going to go for my mask here. We're going to zoom in. I'm just going to try and sharpen and shape this bit. So this is going to be an It's going to be an extracted mask here. So I'm just going to refine it, sharpen that. It's not important I get it 100% because I can polish it and shape it in a second anyway when I do the extract. So I'm going to extract this one quite thick, I think. So it's probably a bit more than I need, but I'm going to go with that to start with. Delete the internal geometry. I don't need or want it. Close the holes. And I'm going to come in with the H polish tool. I'm just going to buff and polish all the way around just to sharpen up that outside ridge. Let me just add a bit of resolution to this just in case. 700 on the Dynamesh with the polish on. Okay, so just going to come back in. You'll see these rough edges are going to smooth out nicely. They're going to become nice and flat. The top I'm not concerned with at the moment. I'm going to have to reshape anyway. I'll make sure I keep this point at the front, and I need to make sure that it stays in line with the other points here, so keep that straight. So using the Alt key just to help smooth out the polishing. Right, so so the top of these boots then, I'm going to come side on. I'm going to go for my slice tool, slice curve. I'm just going to go for the same angle to there. Oh right, hang on, no I'm not going to do that. Let's undo that. I'm just going to do auto group first. Cut it off there, put my polish on, and auto groups. Okay, that was a fail. Ignore what I've just done. Okay, so what I've just done was not useful. It's basically created a massive imbalance in the file. So I'm just going to use the move tool instead. I'm going to nudge the top out because if you look at the bottom of the legs on the screen down here, what you can see is it goes outwards like that up to the top of the thigh, or bottom of the thigh rather. So I'm just going to bring the move tool, angle my camera a little bit, and just going to nudge the top out until I get the kind of profile I want to get. And again, I'm not too fussed about this at the moment because I'm going to come back in and do a lot of reshaping and a lot of a lot of nudging in a minute, a lot of polishing. I just want to create enough distinction and definition around the top of these boots that I can work with it. Max! Man, I was talking about. How are you doing, mate? Have you had a good day? You said something earlier about sneaking around in a cave, didn't you? Were you on a family day out with the little one again? So I'm just working on Lucifer's boots at the moment, mate. So just getting all the shape profiling. So I'm just using the H polish tool here. I was going to buff this to within an inch of its life to try and get the shape back up. You can see I've got this weird kind of like dog leg type shape. So I'm just going to hold the Alt key, keep polishing until this comes up to a nice smooth, surface for me. And it will if I persevere with it. Oh, Nanolith. Oh, cheers, mate. How did it go? The game going okay? Did you manage to iron out the bits you needed to try? I'm glad you think so. It's quite satisfying seeing it happen, from my point of view, because there's nothing worse than when it just goes horribly wrong. One of my favourite bits actually, Pixie, is when what I tend to do is I'll sculpt in rough using the clay build up. I'm just going to show you here now. So I kind of do a lot of this kind of stuff, build up a surface, and it looks really rough and like, you know, don't know, like a brain or intestines or something like that. And then when you dynamesh with your polish on, and it kind of smooths it all out and kind of gives you this stylised surface. I find that really satisfying. Just going to get rid of that now because I don't need it. But the smoothing's an essential part of the process, though. Because if you fail to do that, you end up with something that doesn't render very nice. Although I will say it'll probably print okay, even if it doesn't look, you know, super crisp on the render. Because what a lot of people don't realise is when you look at renders, you're being sold a lie most of the time, because obviously there's lighting in there, there's forms and stuff, but a lot of the stuff you see is stuff that people sculpt on there that you can't actually print and paint anyway. You get these like little micro details, little superficial textures and things, and they're just completely pointless. But somebody spent ages putting them on there. They might look nice on a render, but they don't actually achieve anything. They don't print, and then all they end up doing is like mucking up the surfaces. So you end up with like you know, a very, don't know, like a leather texture or a cloth texture or something like that being painted on. It's just going to actually, you know, pick up too much dry brushing or inks or something like that. It's going to make the surfaces look muddy. And actually, you just want a nice, smooth area to just get some paint on and do some blends and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So, nice ink wash, bit of gradients going on, or some glazing. It's a very satisfying process. Okay, so once I've done this top bit, then I need to work on these crenellations on the boots. I think that's right. The top needs to come down a touch on this side. This one I'm going to nudge down just a dot, and then the back here is a bit high, so I'm just going to drop the back down. It doesn't matter that it's raised up in the middle because it's irrelevant. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to gouge the centre out. So, and there are neater and more elegant ways of doing this, but it's not me. if I was doing this in clay and putty, this is kind of how I'd be doing it. I'd be gouging stuff out and smoothing it off and things like that. There wouldn't be any kind of like classy stuff going on, any fancy tricks or anything like that, and that's kind of still how I work. Yeah, I was just saying, you must have come on just after I said, but I've just given a little bit of an overview of Lucifer's backstory as the the tyrant king, who goes mad after he's been exposed to the crystal, kills his dad and tries to expand his borders after crowning himself. So we do love a bad guy, and this guy is certainly that. He's not very pleasant at all. In the game, he was quite a helpful character when we first started playing it, and I said to Max the kind of the way this guy feels when you play him, it doesn't echo the story. So Max went back and like corrected some of his rules, and now he's an horrible git. So he'll basically just trash you when you go near him. He's got rules that are very disruptive to their opponents, and it kind of makes him thematically, mad around the crystals, and everything he should be based on his storyline now is visible and evident in the gameplay. And it's one of the things I love about the game, is that you see that in everything. Right, so you see that little dimple on the front there, it's just pulled through from the other side. So I'm just going to keep ending up having to do this now, because it's going to keep pulling from one side to the other, because it's got to that level of thickness, or thinness rather. So what I need to do now is I need to inflate it a touch. I'm just going to redo my dye mesh and just polish that back out, and then just do the front again. Just get it nice and smooth. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't have been able to stream this yesterday because we had we had absolutely torrential, awful weather here yesterday, and we had hailstones pelting the roof of the office, and I couldn't hear anything. It was like being inside, the old rainmakers with the the can full of beans kind of thing. It just sounded like that. It was terrible, deafening. Yeah, we were having a chat about Luca the other day, weren't we, mate? The Mad King from Sculpting. I loved that game. What's the other one? It was Sculpting and Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross I loved. I keep looking for some of the old nostalgic games. There was one called on the PlayStation I had. It was called Brave Fencing Musashi. It was a Squaresoft game. That was a really cool little cutesy hack and slash where you were like a little child samurai, and you had to go around and collect toys of all the enemies. They've used a similar kind of thing in like things like Zelda since, I think, the kind of toy collection mechanic. Alundra, that was another one I loved. I was going back a while though. That's PS1 era as well. In fact, there's quite a few on the PS1 that I really liked. I'll give that one a check out in a bit, mate. We're only going to be doing a fairly short stream tonight. I say it's my birthday tomorrow, so I promised the wife I'll spend a bit of time with her tonight. And then tomorrow we're dropping the kids off to school, having breakfast, going out somewhere nice for breakfast, and then we're going to go and grab a bit of working time in the middle of the day. So I'll get a bit of sculpting done, and then once we've thank you, Pixie. Once we've done that, it'll be a little chill session with the kids later on. I got banished from the house tonight, so I got an extra couple of hours in on top of what I'd normally get, because turned out the wife and kids had decided they were going to make me a lovely little birthday cake. So they managed to bake 2 chocolate sponge cakes and completely decorate it all without me kind of even realising it was going on today. I know, it's lovely. I'll put a picture up on my Facebook later, but they've got the kids are like really pleased with themselves. It's like covered in like sweets and chocolates and things, so they've done a lovely job on it. Really thoughtful. So we're going to spend a little bit of time having a little bit of family time tomorrow, and then I'm going to run a bit of a birthday stream on Friday. So it'll probably start around about 11 o'clock in the morning, about 11 AM. So we'll go for see how many people tune in for it. But what I might do is I might run a few giveaways, a couple of resin minis, and some STL discounts and stuff. So I'm running a 39%, because it's my 39th birthday. I'm going to be running a 39% discount sale all month. So hopefully that'll tempt a few people in. So yeah, just get this boot sorted. The next bit that's going to be tricky on these is going to be the cutouts. So those cutouts, I think what I might do is it as like a Boolean operation, cut them out so I can make a shape that I can use to remove from the mesh, and then that way when I let's just make sure that line up front is a bit more as it should be. So yeah, so I'll have a chat with Mike and see if he can gives him with a little bit of promotion with the birthday sale as well. So right. Go for my pick this up from gametea.co.uk. It's a lovely little hip flask containing the tears of my enemies. If you like those kind of things, you need to go and check them out, because they're ace. The girls that run the company are lovely, but they do some brilliant products as well. They do all like D&D type themed candles and home decor type things, little metal plates, to hang in your kitchen and your bar, and coffee corner, all that kind of stuff. How to do it now? Okay, so I'm gonna right, size wise I just need to nudge this in. So bottom, I'm going to bring the bottom in a touch. It's only the bottom that needs to move. The top is absolutely fine. So I'm just going to make sure I'm grabbing the underside of the mesh, and I'm just nudging it back in towards the leg. Okay, so I'm just going to again just run the polish around it just a touch. Oh, I've just realised I've got something really odd going on here. That was it. I just hadn't copied it over for some reason. Okay, let's sort this Boolean out then. So there's a couple of crenellations going down the one side, down here, and then we'll have the same on the other side. So let's go for 1, 2, maybe 3 aside, and then they join up. And it's kind of a little cross shape, would you say? Yeah, it's like a little cross, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to append a cube. So this is the shape I'm going to make this this boolean, this cutout. So it's going to be that plus that, I think. Like that kind of shape. So I'm just going to dynamesh that. A bit of polish on. Now I'm only going to worry about one of the boots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one of them. I'm going to go to, oops, not going to go to solo mode at all because it's not going to let me. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this down, scale it, and make sure it's got a bit of depth to it. I'm going to scale this right down. Okay, so the first one is going to be there. Extend that top piece up a touch. Okay, there is where the first one's going. Second one. It's going to go to the halfway point. Now we'll make sure that the distance here is the same as the distance here, so that top point, that top ridge line is going to be the same all the way around. We go to the one at the back. Let's bring this to the front actually, let's do this front side here. We'll try and make sure we've got an equal distance-ish from the central crest line here to the outside edge. I think that is almost there. Okay. Excuse me. Right, one more. Okay. Let's auto group these a second. Just need to make sure that one's down a touch. Let's move that one into the middle at the back. Okay, right, so I think I'm good with that. I can just check it. So if I turn on live boolean, what I should be able to do, if it works, if I bring these up to the level of this piece here, which is the right, so you see there, you can see if I just turn off the mask, that's what it's going to look like after I've cut out the crenellations. So I can see that this front one here, this one needs to come down a touch. So I'm going to duplicate this just to make sure. I'm going to keep one hidden, and I'm going to take that, I'm going to merge it down, and I'm going to make sure the other one is on like a negative boolean, so it's on a subtraction modifier. When I merge the two down, they're going to come together, and then I can Dynamesh and polish, and it will cut them out. There we go. And now if let's just take the this top layer of the boot that's been masked off. I'm just going to colour that and yeah, group masked. I will just delete that. Maybe not quite. Let's just raise the mask a touch. It's going to redo the mask, the top line, using mask pen, because I want it to just penetrate into the top. Kind of, I still don't know what to call that. I want to call it like a crow's nest or something, like this top part of the boot. So invert that, group masked. I just want to click that, delete hidden, close holes. And then I'll duplicate this. No I won't, I will mirror and weld that. I'll copy it onto the other side. And then I've got the boots below that you can become a part of. Right, so I think, yeah, it's now annoyingly I've got to go turn everything back on because everything's been turned off. Okay, so right, now you can see he's got his boots. I can make his trousers a little bit bigger, I think, to fill those boots out a touch. So I don't want to go through, but I'm just nudging. So, yeah, and this is one of my little areas down here where I'm going to have to be careful to make sure there's no like proper resin traps. Right, legs, I can turn them off now. I don't need legs in the scene at all. So let's just click off, pick someone else. Right, no shoes. Right, group here. Right, bottom of the legs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the. I'm going to duplicate the boots actually. Okay, so for the first bit, I want to cut it off there. Take that, delete hidden, close holes, and mirror and weld. Okay, so that has now got me a. This is going to be the foot, the foot part of the boot. And now this piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the foot, but lower down. because he's got this lower leg armour, well, like greaves, if you like. So I'm going to, what do we call it now? Dynamesh with groups and polish. Delete the feet. Right, now with symmetry on, I'm just going to profile the shape at the bottom of the leg. It looks like it comes down into a point here. It's going to come up a bit at the front. And these are going to have to come out, so I'm just going to splay them out a touch like that. And on the inside I want to get the same kind of shape. So coming down to a point and then up to the back. So what are you guys all up to at the moment then? You just sitting and chilling, or you're working, or hobbying? This is auto group again. So I'm just going to again polish up from the bottom of this cuff now, because I want to smooth out this transition from the wide to the thin. It's a little circular. Again, I don't know how well this shows up when you see the mouse moving. Hopefully it's pretty good for you. You should be able to see like little circular, like buffing motions going on. Little ovals and oblongs and all that kind of jazz. Right, there we go. Right, so I'm just going to have to drag that out just a touch, just to make it fit a little bit better. Right, I've just realised I need to take this ridged crest off the top of the boot, because it doesn't actually, it's not a feature of the armour anywhere else, and even though it looks like it should be there, I think it should be smooth. So I'm just going to polish it out. Right, so I'm just going to add the colour into this now. So I'm just going to take the colour from up here, click it and drag it over onto the armour, let go, and then it'll pick that colour for me. And now with RGB added, or mRGB, in fact, let me just double check it's the same one. Yeah, with mRGB added, what I can do, I can fill objects, and the boots are now filled with the same colour as the armour. And then what I'll need to do is just go and what do you call it now? Add the trim. So we've got like a trim line across the bottom of the boot. Right, I think he's got a piece of armour across his foot. So it looks to me like we've got this kind of thing going on. Extract that, reduce the thickness to like 684, accept that. Right, this time I'm going to isolate the inside, mask it off because I don't want that moving. And then I want to see the rest of the model. And I need to make sure that this is like protruding and proud over the rest of the foot. Okay. Let's just have a rounded profile, so I just need to just make sure that's consistent across the board. And I'm just going to isolate everything and just polish again. Now when I'm polishing, I need to make sure that my dynamic tessellation function's turned off, the Sculptress Pro mode. So Sculptress, years and years and years ago, back in 2010-ish, maybe a little bit earlier, there was a program that was, well, Sculptress, it was a standalone package, and it was really good. It was free. It was limited to like one tool, so you couldn't do like Zbrush where you got lots of different items. You could just have one object that you could work on. And it used the dynamic tessellation function, which was really good at the time. It was like a new thing, and it made sculpting quite intuitive. You didn't have to really think about geometry. This was before Zbrush had Dynamesh or anything. And Pixelogic, who owned Zbrush or made Zbrush at the time, they bought out the Sculptress software. I can't be 100% sure. I think they basically took on the guys who developed it as like developers. They bought them on. And then some years down the line, it stayed as a standalone package for a long time. And some years down the line, it got integrated into Zbrush as a function. So they went from having the Dynamesh modes and Dynamesh tool to having this dynamic tessellation thing in there, which basically reacts to the brush size you're using and applies like new geometry. The difficulty and the issue with dynamic tessellation is, whilst it's very good for smoothing out things because it re-topologizes and creates new geometry as you go, so you can really destroy a mesh if you've got like a really, you know, horrible like textures and stuff going on and horrible artifacts. You can absolutely annihilate them with dynamic tessellation. You'll just reform the mesh. You won't be trying to stretch anything or pull anything around. It's just literally just going, right, I'm just going to build all this new. And it's great for doing things like that, but then when you use it for for smoothing, or if you accidentally use it for smoothing, it basically changes the little squares into little triangles, and you can't get the sharp crisp edges anymore. Then you get these like I mean, you'll have seen it as I've been working at various points, but it you get a very kind of like tessellated, faceted surface going on, and it's really untidy. And ultimately, it's good for kind of roughing out shapes, but when you can want to refine things, you need to like retopologize with Dynamesh, and then just repolish and reprofile. So it can add extra stages and a bit of complexity and complication, but you know, it's okay. My little fella's gone to bed yet. Jacob's decided he was staying up for a little bit to watch a bit of a baking show with Hayley. So she's chilling out. When it's me, he stays up with. We watch a bit of Forging Fire. Last night we watched a couple of episodes of Forging Fire, and he was getting really upset at the end. If you've never watched Forging Fire, they basically they make swords or blades, and then at the very end of the episode, they whoever's won the round, the two competitors who are there left, they get sent home to their own forges, and they have to make a blade from history, or you know, some kind of like some blade to a specification, bring it back, and then it gets tested, and it gets really stressed and really wound up when they don't get to do all of the tests on the blades. So like we watched an episode, and like this one sword, I think the pommel fell off. It was a beautiful sword that the guy had made, and then when they hit something with it, the pommel dropped off the bottom, and they were like, it's not safe to carry on testing, so the other guy wins. And Jacob's like, no, throws himself on the floor, and he's like, no, like, you know, like mega dramatic. And I'm like, alright, we'll watch another episode. We'll hope they manage to do all the tests on the next one. Lo and behold, the next episode comes on, the sword, like, I think the sword broke in half or something like that. And we ended up managing on the third attempt, on the third watch, to get one of these final rounds where they actually managed to do all of the tests on all the swords, and it actually came down to which one worked the best and which one the judges preferred, rather than you win by default because his sword broke. So if you don't watch it and you're interested in watching things being crafted, it's a very good series. And I have to say, it does make me very tempted to oh, you're right, Matt, how you doing, mate? How's things going? You set up a new company recently, didn't you? If I remember right, seeing your LinkedIn. Good to have you in the chat as well, man. You better click that follow button, mate. Yeah, this is my full-time job now, mate. This oh, this is other Matt, isn't it? Are you working for a uni in Coventry now, mate? Fair play. They're treating you well, I hope. Ah, good man. How are you keeping anyway? Keeping busy? It's been ages since I spoke to anyone from Regroup, actually. Speak to Peter Nicholas occasionally. He still pops up and comes in for a chat. He's retired now. Don't know how long that's gonna last. Knowing Pete. It has indeed. you still doing the same kind of thing then, or are you still doing SharePoint stuff, or you have you kind of moved on from that now? I don't even know if technology's moved on from that, because it was like cutting edge back when we were working on that stuff. But I imagine technology moves really quickly, doesn't it? Oh yeah. Yeah, Mr. White was pushing Office 365, wasn't he, back in the dying days of Reed. God, man, I know, yeah. No, I went God, after Reed, I went on to Costain as facilities management, and the head office, the old Coventry office, it got sold off because Costain were downsizing and they wanted to kind of like save some money, and they moved everybody off to an office in Birmingham Business Park. So I had to basically move everybody from Coventry to Birmingham, which was, I mean, it was a tough one because it was a smaller office. It wasn't as nice, you know. It was a huge downgrade for everybody. And then they sold it to Denso next door. You know, the company to the like the other side, the ones that does all the car parts. And then because they were moving into our old offices, they offered me a job. So I ended up I ended up working for Denso then. Instead of Costain, doing the facilities management and health and safety there. Health and safety and environmental stuff. So it was a nice job for a while, and then this just kind of took over then. So I started doing STL files, digital sales, back in August 2019. And by the time we got to the November of that year, I was making more money doing digital sales for STL files than I was earning in my actual day job. So I ended up having to hand my notice in and commit to doing it full time. And then COVID struck, which was fun for everybody. So completely threw me off my game at that point. But yeah, it's all sent to test you, isn't it? Okay, so we've got a couple of spikes on his foot. Cheers, man. It's funny how things play out, isn't it? If you'd have told me when we were working at Reed that I'd have been doing this as a full-time job, I'd have never believed it. But technology moves on, doesn't it? You know, the world changes. Okay, so he's got a foot now. He needs a pointier toe. It would help, obviously, if I was actually on that as an active tool. I did a bit of C# actually, you know. At one point, I think it was some information you gave me actually, Matt, to help me get my head around like the whole. It was like, I seem to remember like a massive wad. I've got it over there actually, still a big wad of C#, bits and bobs, like a huge like guide. I was going to use it to start coding up a game. In Unity, and the intention was it was going to be basically the kind of stuff I'm doing here now, but as a video game rather than as miniatures. And then when the miniatures thing happened, it kind of, the whole thing got put on hold just because of time commitments and stuff, really. But yeah, I love doing this, mate. It's really chilled. I've got my office down the bottom of the garden. I've got a 30-second commute from the back door. Unless it's raining, and then it's about 5 seconds because I'm sprinting. Yeah, I looked at that, the pricing on Unity, but they don't actually charge you until you start selling it, do they? So until you earn anything off it, they don't take a cut. So I did look at actually using Blender to make a game, because it's all free on there, isn't it? Using Python, but I gather it's a little bit less what's the word? Effective. But yeah, it's I still like to do a game at some point. We've been talking to Max, who I'm working on with on this game with, and we've talked about doing a few like video game aspects and things. I think Max would like to do like a little app, you know, like you get on like these little RPG things where you have like a little guild house, and you can go into walk around the guild house and talk to your other member, like guild members and stuff, and interact and engage with them. So yeah, Blender is good. The only thing I find with Blender is my stuff tends to be too high poly count for Blender. Yeah, very much like that actually. Yeah, I'd forgotten about Habbo, but yeah, that kind of thing, but using like RPG characters, so they could walk around, have an avatar, walk around and interact with your other guys. So it'll be an interesting one. If we go down there, I'll hit you up if you're up for it. But right, so that's fine. Yeah, I think it'd be a cool idea. I say it's just the practicalities of how it's going to work. 'Cause obviously, it's all going to be around community engagement and you know, all that kind of good stuff. So if it works out, then it'll be ace. But it's going to be a big ask, I think, to try and like incorporate it to start with. I think it's something we're going to have to build the game first, develop the world, and then start looking at, you know, digital integration and everything. So if you're around earlier when I was talking about the way the game plays and the plans to take it to like a tournament level, obviously if we can get it to the tournament, we can start doing guilds on a wider basis and stuff, and that will give us a bit of scope to expand and justify pushing it down into that, you know, that Habbo level where you can kind of do that that kind of what's the word, like peer engagement and stuff. Do you know, you say that is actually the plan for this guy. So we're going to do a little intro video sequence for the game, and one of the things I want to do, the reason I'm doing this guy the way I have, I'm going to clean him all up, retopologize him so he's more lightweight, and I'm going to put him into Mixamo, so I can rig the guy and add some walking animation to him. And I want him to go into, we're going to have him as a focal point to start with on a little scene, walking up to a cave entrance, which will be like a mine shaft, because the basic game that we've got going on, that we're looking to release, the setting for the first like narrative campaign is all set in like a mine, like a crystal mine, and in the centre of this mine is this giant egg crystal thing, which basically it's a giant crystal, but it's the egg of a god essentially. And what I want to do is I want to have this guy walking down. So you'll see him from the front, and then the camera always behind him, and then over his shoulder into the mine entrance, down a mine shaft, round past a few crystal clusters and stuff like that, and into this like big open chamber with a floating crystal in the middle. And then the crystal's going to crack. We're going to have light burst out of the crystal and then pan into the intro, the title. So a little bit of music, a little bit of dramatic music going in over it, little JRPG themed, like dramatic music. And I think that'll be really cool. It's going to challenge the hell out of me to do that though, because I haven't done anything of the sort of animation. So I've got a very clear image in my head of what this is going to look like. Whether I can pull it off is going to be another matter altogether. So, wish me luck. I might try and do it on stream actually, so you can watch me fail. Fail, struggle, and swear at my computer. That's what I think it's going to be. Oh no, I'm because it's something that's new for me. It's a challenge. I'm just tempted to tackle it online, and I just feel like at the same time I feel like that's also going to be adding an awful lot of pressure to try and perform and deliver. So I've had a few people offer to give me a hand though. So I haven't seen him on the chat tonight. He might be here like lurking because he's usually online. But Wilkie Sammers, he knows his stuff with that kind of thing. He's quite keen to assist. So yeah, I'll seek out some help if I need it. I think, but hopefully I want to try and do my best to nail it. But right, I'm just going to duplicate these boots. Isolate them, and I'm just going to create the ridges. So masking again, and again I can't remember if this is how I did them on the previous ones, so I'm just going to go with it anyway. And if it's not how I did the previous ones, then it's just tough. It's going to be it's going to be how I'm going to do it on this one, and it'll still have the same effect. It'll just be oh yeah, pixel art's pretty nifty. In fact, you know what? Check this out. If you've got any inclination into Zbrush whatsoever, so you can see this guy on the screen at the moment. I discovered this a couple of months ago when I was doing a project. They've got these things called render sets in here, and in amongst the render sets, there is one. Well, there's two. And they changed the way that the model looks when you render it. The first one I was looking for is this one, pixel art. Check this out. There you go. Contrast is awful. Because the colour profiles I've used and whatever else, but if you've got proper colours on there, and you actually do, like, if you paint the model digitally, or you just get a model that's properly painted and then do that with it, you get this really nice, you know, a 2D sprite kind of thing you can use. If you want to go a little bit more advanced than that, there's a better one which is called Retro Gaming, and it's more there you go. Still pixelated, still pixel art, but it's a better quality pixel art. So it's still using the shadow information from the model to give you the pixelated look. So if you're ever in a position where you're struggling to get that, you know, you're trying to do something visual but you can't figure it out. Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of like, let's say 16-bit rendering, isn't it? But I like it. I quite like the look of it, and I'm very tempted to do it for these characters, to be fair. But we'll see how it goes, because I feel like they need it needs that. It's actually the Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story kind of vibe we're looking for this game. That's the kind of the aesthetic we're looking at. So if we can pull that off, if we can do some of these kind of, like, you know, retro gaming, harping back to the early 2000s, you know, gaming era, then that's probably helping us to deliver the look we're going for. So yeah, back to the actual model. Well, I've duplicated his boots now. We're going to go around just masking off the trim areas, so it's just the bottom crest ridge of all of these bits. If I get too much or too little, it's not the end of the world, because I'm going to use the inflate tool to make it the right shape. I'm going to come in and just do the rough masking first, and then I'm going to come back and just clean up my mask. And is it the bottom there? Yeah, just need to do this bottom line here. Yeah, no worries, mate. I'm literally knocking it on the head in like 5 minutes. Like I said, I promised the wife I'd go and spend a bit of time with her tonight, and we can watch a bit of telly. We started watching that Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix, which, to be fair, it's bloody harrowing and horrible. But she wants to watch it because she's grim like that. But I've got the Lord of the Rings earmarked, and the not the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Yeah, good speaking to you, mate. You crack on and do your housework and whatnot. Is it? Max, you're shocking me there. I didn't even know that. Is it genuinely set in the same world as Final Fantasy 12? I know the animation and the graphics and stuff are nigh on identical. I didn't realise it was the same world. I've got really fond memories of Vagrant Story. I absolutely loved the game. And when I was looking the other day, I was looking for information on it and like screen renders and stuff. We were looking at how they handled the scenery, because I remember it being very boxy. Very much what we're trying to achieve with Crystal Collapse, actually. And I went and had a little look at Vagrant Story, kind of like landscape, like scenery kind of things, for a bit of inspiration. And it ain't good. It's not. I've got very fond memories of it, and it kind of let me down a bit, if I'm honest, because I forgot how old it was, and it hasn't aged very well, unfortunately. I'd love to see them come and do a revisit on it, because it's one of those IPs that it's just begging for a revisit. It's set in Ivalice, is it? Well, mate, I did not know that. Every day is a school day. Yeah, it was the backgrounds and everything, to be honest, because it was when I was looking at it, like, I had these really fond memories of it being really kind of like, you know, kind of almost having like a watercolour type look about it, and being really kind of like, you know, well designed graphic wise. And I think it was good for the PS1 at the time it was released, but then it's kind of it just hasn't aged well. And when you look at the scenery in the train, there's a lot of repetition going on there. They've used a lot of the same assets over and over again, so there's not that attention to like world building and scenery that you get in some of the other games. But again, for the PS1 and that era of gaming, it was brilliant. Good old Google, Max. But yeah, I think we're gonna do good things with this. I think, mate. It's gonna be a very, very good game, and it's gonna be visually very kind of like gripping. I think. We need to really cash in and capitalise on the graphic visuals aspect of the game. Right, so I'm just going to inflate the ridge lines. I'm going to change my mask, invert my mask, and I'm going to deflate the rest of it. And I just need to... I'm going to put my dynamic tessellation on. I just want to kill this stuff at the top where the geometry's gone all horrible. So I'm just going to smooth over it all. Just take away some of this take away some of the unnecessary forms that we're not going to be using. And then I'm going to Dynamesh and polish just to kind of get it all sharp and crispy. I'm gonna call it a night on this one. Right, now you see all this stuff here that I don't want. So what I can do with this is the easiest way to get rid of all of that stuff is if I put my polygroups on, so you can see the polygroups. I run auto groups, and I'm just going to select the bits I actually want to keep, and you can see it's giving me all these extra floating bits of nonsense that I don't want. So I'm just going to invert the mask now, delete the hidden, and all of that horrible stuff is gone. I'm just going to put that in there now. This will have to come back and get this all shaped up. Yeah, I really need to get some gaming in on that game. I can't bring myself to spend the money on it at the moment though, because it's very expensive, and the sheer lack of gaming time I get doesn't justify me spending it. If I can pick it up on a sale, like a Steam sale or something like that at some point, or some kind of platform sale, I'll definitely grab a hold of that game. But until it's on offer and I can get it at a nice reduced price, it's just living in my wish list for now. So I'm just refining the underside of the shape as well as the top of it, just to help with the profile, maintaining consistency. Lots of polishing, lots of shaping, etc, etc. Okay, right, so that's the top bit done. The boots are done, apart from spikes and that little toe bit I needed to do. Delete hidden close holes. Polish and Dynamesh. Oh, bro. Well, I'm not sure they're doing pre-painted, but we are looking for these guys. The option of doing what's it called? 3D printed in full colour. The technology is not amazing at the moment, though. So I'd need to test it out before we actually offer it as a genuine thing. But if you ever want one painted, mate, I can always rustle one up for you and do you a paint job on one. Get one flinged out into post for you. Or if you're in Coventry, I'll have a whiz over one day and we'll meet you for a coffee and a catch up. Drop it off in person, maybe. I'm just creating this. Or you could buy some paints and you could tune in to one of my how to paint model streams that I'm going to be doing. Little print and paint along sessions. I haven't done any yet because I'm a bit behind on the sculpting, so I need to spend them sculpting at the moment. But oh, I'd love to have you in more often, mate. It's good having a catch up. There we go. There's his boots done. So the trim's done. I've got a few spikes to do, and then it's the cape. But I'm not going to do the cape until we're posing, because capes move. There's no point in sculpting a big cape and then doing the pose. I'm tempted to use the pose that's on the artwork, because I want him to look quite, bad guy-esque. Yeah, I've seen a couple too. I mean, let me see if I've got the one on my, because they actually did a what do you call it for it? Can't think what it's called now. Kickstarter. Except it wasn't Kickstarter because it was done on my manufacturer. It was their Frontiers thing. They did a Frontier for it, and it completely failed. Whether it's the wrong audience or people just didn't like the look of what they were buying. But yeah, it didn't work out well at all. I'm trying to see if I've got any pictures of it. But the one they did for me wasn't amazing. Do you know what? Actually, let me just pull up our chat, Max, because I know you sent me some pictures, didn't you? Go back a little bit to the. Yes, wrong page. There we go. So this is one of the pre-painted full colour printed miniatures that they did. This is one of the ones Max sent me from Essen that they had as a sample. So this one's quite a nice clean paint job. This one's good, but it seems to have these weird like hair strands on it for some reason. I'm not sure what that's about. It might just be dust, but this one looks really nice, and then this one really doesn't. There's something really bad about that, and my concern is that is most of our models, what they're going to end up looking like, and I wouldn't like that. It's a little bit crude. That's the other model I've done for this range so far, which is rendered up in full colour. That's Corrado. So he's like the good guy version of him. So yeah, they've got a lot of colour in, but my concern is I think they were using I want to say it was like a almost like a sandstone that was printed. So they basically use like a pore, as I understand. I could be wrong about it, but they use like a porous material. They lay a layer of this material down as a 3D print, and then they spray an inkjet layer over the top, which stains the resin like in the spots it needs to be in, and then they keep like doing that layer after layer after layer, so you get this kind of all the way through kind of colour. The problem is that the detail and the accuracy isn't necessarily there. Ah, do they? They're right, so they're screen printing onto the miniatures, not just using 3D printed printers. That's interesting. I'll have to have a chat to Alex about that and see how they what technology that is available to them and which is the better one. Because I'd quite like to see a sample of like Corrado and Luxifer done up in full colour. So I'll have to ask him and see if we can get them made up. Right, me guys, I'm a little bit over my my time for tonight. My wife will be cursing my name, and I know I'm going to get woken up early by the kids in the morning because they're all both very excited about my birthday. So I know they're going to be bouncing into the bedroom and giving me a rude awakening in the morning. So thank you, Pixie. Cheers, Matt. Thank you very much, mate. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me again tonight. Birthday stream on Friday. So about 11 a.m. I've got to do assembly with the kids on. Oh yeah, I forgot your birthday. It's right by mine. It's my daughter's birthday on Monday as well. So a couple of years ago, she's 4 now. When she was born, she went into hospital before my birthday, and then didn't come out until about a week later. So like, I literally didn't even get to celebrate my birthday that year. And even little Jacob didn't even know it was my birthday. We didn't celebrate it until she got home. So like, Jacob thought my birthday was at the same time as Willow's or after Willow's at that point. Bless him. But yeah, Matt, if I don't speak to you before then, if I don't catch you on Friday stream, have a lovely birthday as well, mate. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining me. I'm not going to raid out because I'm just got to get in the house and put my feet up now. Today's killed me, but alright guys, thanks again, have a lovely time, and I'll see you all Friday hopefully. Take it easy. Adios people.